Hello, welcome to Blockchain Value. We focus on the value of blockchain across industries. Together with builders and those who support builders, we explore how blockchain adds value and what new business models emerge. Know someone who'd make a great guest? Let us know. Self-nominations are encouraged. They're an act of courage. Want to get the most from this conversation? Ask questions, comment, like, follow, say hello. In short, engage. Finally, this is not a place for legal or investment advice. Everything here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Let's begin. Here's your host, Olga Mack.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Blockchain Value. I'm really excited about our conversation today. We are interviewing somebody who has a front row seat in building Metaverse and blockchain applications. And this is a place where we have conversations. Definitely ask questions and definitely engage. And without further ado, Batis, welcome to the show. Really excited about this conversation.
Hi, Olga. Thanks for inviting me. Great to be here. How are you?
I am awesome. Please introduce yourself for folks who don't know you.
Yeah, sure.
What are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Batis Samadian. I'm the founder and CEO of Space. Space is a commerce virtual world. I've been in crypto since 2013. Been involved in venture building, in 15-minute essentials delivery, in wearables tech. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to expand on myself shortly.
Oh, I love it. This is great. So tell us about Space. Not everyone knows what it is. In the short, what does it do? What value does it create?
Absolutely, yeah. Space is a commerce virtual world. And so the idea is that it's a web-based virtual world where it's incredibly easy for creators to build their own immersive commerce experiences. So basically, you go into you go to tryspace.com, you enter our virtual world, and people are building their own virtual stores, 3D subscription rooms, ticketed events. And so they basically create their own commerce experiences. And we're one of the only worlds that are cross-device and make it incredibly easy to manage and create your own merchant experiences.
I love it. And who are your customers? Who do you primarily build this for?
Yeah, sure. So I think mainly the focus that we're finding is that these are fashion brands, streetwear brands, beauty brands. In some cases, influencers or famous DJs who all want to be merchants on our platform and who find a big value in being in providing these three-dimensional commerce experiences where it's important for their fans and their existing customers to have an additional touch point.
I love that. Super exciting. You said something that piqued my interest. You have been in crypto since 2013. That's early. I've been in crypto since 2014, then full-time in 2017. So I consider myself your early, but you predated me. So really cool. Tell me how you got to that. What was the event, and and what are the adventures sort of generally? How did you navigate that early days?
Yeah, I mean, we go through many ups and downs, right? So 2013, I was mining with two of my friends in our college dorms at UBC in Vancouver. We all kind of we weren't really sure, but it seemed so obvious that there was no way we weren't going to try. We had basically nothing to lose. One of the largest Bitcoin influencers went to our school. And so we were like, okay, well, he's got 100,000 followers or 60,000 followers at the time. It's not probably nothing. There's something here. And so we went on to, create crypto groups, blockchain groups of the school officially, got involved. We're in it really. And as you know, in the early days, prices were just up and down extremely drastically. Like one day it'd be like $80, the next day it'd be $700. It was incredibly volatile. And, I think around like December 2015, January 2016, we definitely were like a bit more scared. We were like, oh, maybe stable coins are the future. Maybe it won't be these volatile currencies. And so I think that's why we, at least for me, in like 2015, I started to also get involved in a wearables tech startup where we were kind of like not digitalizing fashion, but we were just bringing a lot of like technology to garments, and got involved there. Then in 2016, I moved to Los Angeles, where I worked for this venture builder. We got involved in a lot of early VR startups at the beginning of early 2016, and from there also esports. We got involved with a ton of Series A startups in the California area. Worked with quite a few incubators as well, and then in 2020. Well, hold on, let me finish the crypto story. So. I think at some point, 2017, my brother started to get into crypto, and it just sparked me and my friends' attention again. We're like, oh no, here we go again. It's like a new wave of people are going to join. And in fact, it was quite a legitimizing wave, right? It almost felt like the word didn't even exist before. And we were like, hey, interesting, what caused this? And so kind of started like reconnecting with people that we knew, seeing like, hey, is this kind of like a moment of legitimacy? Of course, 2018 was kind of a depressing crash again. But we just felt like, there were suddenly like a lot more crypto events, and it seemed like, okay, let's not lose our foot here. Let's find new ways of engaging, doing interesting things. And then actually just before I went in 2020, I moved to London to work for Zapp. I was the head of product of this 15-minute essentials delivery, leading one in Europe. Definitely came out of nowhere in 10 months and did some amazing stuff. Just before I started that, I think that was DeFi summer. And we had a few clients of the venture builder in Los Angeles that they just made it very obvious to us that like, okay, some major use cases are coming to crypto now, and something is going to cause the market to rally. And of course, that was the major bull market. That's kind of a bit of the story of me in crypto.
I love that story. That's a very good story. That's a very legitimate way of being in from early days until today. Totally love people who've been here for a while. So thank you for sharing this. Let's talk about Metaverse. And you just described this commerce experience, this immersive experience. We all look for those opportunities to really be part of the brand, to really kind of experience it fully with all senses. What's missing? How do we make it more real?
Sure, I guess we could start with, like what is missing in the metaverse, right? So high level, right? Like the goal and the current way of like defining and mission of the metaverse is that many virtual worlds are interconnected. It's almost like an aggregated experience of many virtual worlds. And so that in itself is what the metaverse is. But for that to be possible, there's a lot of like deep tech that needs to exist. There's a lot of partnerships that need to exist. So for example, land indexing, land mapping, the basics of shared land content, and having scene analytics for all of these land parcels and their content, creating a portaling protocol where you can go basically infinitely through all virtual world experiences. All of these things are like really fundamental things that are still missing today that make the metaverse real. And so I really believe that from a technology side, that's what's missing. Now, from the consumer end, obviously, we're going through waves of interest and disinterest, and new interest. I think truly, so I've been following and playing all sorts of MMORPGs since I'm a kid. RuneScape, EverQuest, Habba Hotel, Club Penguin, Second Life, and there are many things that are very important lessons to be learned that even today we kind of see history repeat itself with like not learning from these lessons. So one of the most consistent of those is, what are you actually doing in the world? And often the answer is, well, you're running around, you're meeting strangers, you're chatting to them, maybe in some great experiences like, you know, the top virtual world, Sandbox, Decentraland. There's something to do on top of that. You know, it's a gaming world in the case of Sandbox. It's a social world with games in it, like the poker tables and stuff in Decentraland. But generally, there needs to be a lot of things to do, right? Like the whole point is like you're entering a theme park experience where there's convenience, there's fun, there's a whole new type of technology, which is why you would want to do it. So our assumption is commerce will play a very important role. Not to say that social worlds and gaming worlds aren't important. No, I just think those are already kind of like, it's quite clear like who is going to lead in that market. And I think where we saw the opportunity was that like, and no one is really the 3D Etsy, 3D Shopify, 3D Amazon kind of business here, where in this next evolution inside of virtual worlds, commerce will inevitably be conducted. People are going to have virtual jobs. People are going to be selling interesting value propositions, whether they're experiences or clothes or fidgetals. So that's kind of like why we chose our strategy.
I love it. So I love this term of theme park experience. That's a really interesting way to describe it. I think it's very effective. It actually kind of brings it home, I think, at least for me. So if you are a person who has not been in crypto blockchain since 2013 or even 17 or 18 and even 20, and just recently kind of thinking about it and it's curious, maybe you have your headset. How can you participate in that commerce today? Can you participate in that commerce today? What is your advice?
Sure. I mean, look, we strive to make you know, the adoption extremely frictionless. So at least with Space, you know, you can come in as a guest. You can check out with credit card if you'd like to. You know, merchants can have merchants can, you know, they can also connect bank details if they want to initially kind of like test it out and feel it out. We're really here to like kind of like bridge people into the metaverse with like a 2.5 experience rather than a fully Web3 native experience. And I think that's, you know, that's it's really important that so there's someone that I work with closely, Upland. It's another virtual world in 2D. They did a really incredible job of like transitioning people from never having a wallet to conducting a lot of activity with their first wallet. And I really think that, like, you know, even players like Vendly, it's a new Web3 social login, like all of these players are trying to do, they're trying to make it incredibly easy for you to understand why you should make this change and why user data and user ownership and user privacy is an essential thing that you should want to protect. And sometimes it's not so obvious, right? We talk about it a lot, but until you really realize the power of Web3, you're not really understanding like what you're trying to protect.
It's certainly a fascinating world, and I remember when Upland just started. There was a big discourse, you know, about land in Metaverse and what it all means. And actually, you mentioned the land indexing and land mapping. That made it sound super real and concrete. So let's talk about it. What is sort of land real estate within the metaverse? You know, like that concept of land. I'm just curious how you think about it.
Yeah, so I have, my hypothesis, and I think quite a few of the other virtual world founders see it the same way, is that land is really going to be your next .com domain. It's in the works of becoming just as useful and even more useful than a top level domain. So while we've seen in like this early phase that this seems almost like a asset or kind of like a financial product or something like that, the true value of virtual land is that it will be what you need to create your own 3D experience in any of the virtual worlds.
So it's like a space. It's your space on the internet, right? It's your space.
It's your 3D website. It's your 3D app. That's really like the way to think about it. Is that like what you're doing on your land parcel is really what was the goal of your website or the goal of the app that you launched. It's really just like it's a true evolution of that experience.
I love that. I love that analogy to .com domain and how it is actually not an asset. So thank you for that. That is actually very informative. And I hope folks are listening to that, because that's probably one of the better explanations I've ever heard about the land in Metaverse. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to touch on the very easy topic, so economics. This stuff is as complicated as it gets. So it's if you look at the world economies, it's really hard to design economies. That's why some of them are successful more than others. Designing tokenomics in virtual worlds is as complicated, maybe even more complicated, maybe less complicated, but definitely complicated. So let's talk about the land and the tokenomics around it.
Sure. Specific for space, I think the way that we look at it is space is an open virtual world. The goal is that, we, with the team that we have today, that hopefully in a very near future, it's fully a community-owned business. And so the whole idea behind our tokens economics, our land economics, the way that we fundamentally are structuring our business is so that there is an ecosystem in a way that the community basically ends up taking the full ownership or a very high percentage of the ownership of the product. And so, think about it like this, starting with the code, right? Developers in our community could be earning tokens from committing code to building the future of space. People could be earning tokens from QAing the platform. People could have policing jobs and privacy protection jobs within the world where they walk around and they make sure there's no inappropriate content and they block it and they stop it. You could have people that are basically referral guilds. They are kind of like a network of promoters of the whole business, of individual stores. They help unlock new features and functionalities as their XP leveling goes up inside of the world from a commerce perspective. For shoppers, the more you shop, there's shopping rewards. You can use these shopping rewards, you could stake them, you could use them to empower yourself to vote on, land voting, right, on like land laws. Or you could spend them and almost like a miles and more, spend it again on something and receive a product based off of your earnings. The whole point of what I'm trying to say is the way that we have complexly designed our economics is that it has many incentive touch points for someone to want to engage and take ownership of the commerce platform we're providing today. I think one last one for any crypto people here is everyone's always been talking about fractional land ownership since the beginning of the the initial kind of like land smart contracts. But we haven't really seen the utility take place where you really understand like why would you want to have fractional land owners, right? So fundamentally, what does the concept mean? The concept means more people can also own or sub-own the land parcel that you personally purchased. And so when it sells, you basically split the money that was made. But so if you think deeply about the power of fractional land ownership, there's almost like an investment community that can be built around empowering the merchants and creators of tomorrow. So imagine you have a cool idea of what you want to do on your virtual land, but it still needs USDC, it still needs ETH to build the business. So for example, you need to manufacture the clothes, or you need to hire some people to help you build your room, or whatever it may be. You have this idea, but you need basically some sort of financing to get it there. And so that's where fractional land ownership and receiving community investment for that becomes an incredible value proposition. It's like, imagine if the next time you were trying to, kind of like Kickstarter-ish, right? Like the next time you were thinking of starting a new website company, you basically had people who all own part of the domain and the money that it makes. So that becomes incredibly exciting.
Yeah. Now there have been a talk about fractional ownership for a while. To your point, it would be interesting to see how you do it with land. I think most of the sort of examples in real estate I've seen are around sort of apartment buildings where the fractionalizing is pretty clear. You get that apartment, I get another. When it's sort of physical fractioning that already happening, then you're sort of documenting it. In terms, you have to have instruments and mechanisms, and legal financial support to actually do it on the land and kind of divide the use as opposed to sort of physical divide. And that requires infrastructure. And I think that is yet to be built. So I think you will see it. It's just a much more complicated use that requires laws and financial structures to support it, because otherwise it's going to be just a mess. But that stuff is actually incredibly interesting and will allow for entrepreneurs to be creative and have a good time and really leverage various things they own. Speaking of sort of land, how can creators and crypto investors sort of participate in this sort of division of land today? Maybe fractional ownership is like a little too complicated, but like what's possible today? What can they do today? What is easy today?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, Space is about to have its land sale. It'll be incredibly easy. You'll see it on our website immediately as soon as we're considering to whitelist people, which if you join our Discord today, you'll already get like pre-whitelisting if you complete a couple challenges. It's going to be incredibly easy. You'll get to the site and then you'll be able to pay with crypto or a credit card for buying your land, and then it'll be sitting in your wallet. If you don't have a wallet, we'll give you a couple of options of how to store it. And then you will have your land, and then you can be a merchant in the metaverse.
Oh, I love that. And I'm just from obviously not investment advice or legal advice, but sort of from the point of technology, what do you think? What are the innovations that you guys have done to improve? Because there are other land places in Metaverse. What are the innovations? What are the sort of core changes that you introduced to make that experience for various participants better? Sorry,
I missed you for a second. What do you mean with the experiences getting better?
Yeah, there's Upland. There are other places that have been, selling land and having various things to build, commerce activities. How are you different? What are you introducing? What innovations? What technology? or business innovations or innovations in tokenomics?
Yeah, sure. So the way that I look at the market is space is really the only true commerce focused, really like shopping and commerce focused virtual world proposition. This is not kind of like, this is not a social world. This is not a gaming world. This is not a monopoly board of, real estate or something like that. This is really for the creators of tomorrow who have a passionate idea, who have now an opportunity to express themselves and the brand that they are trying to create in a whole new way in 3D. And that's why really our focus has been to partner with merchants more than gamers or individual people who just like to socialize. Really, we work with fashion brands, we work with beauty brands, we work with interesting influencers who have multiple value propositions from selling their own merch, from whatever other channel they have, from creating 3-dimensional subscription rooms where you can meet and greet them and have access to exclusive content. Yeah, this is basically, it's the value proposition of inherently gamified commerce experiences.
I love that. Really cool. I have a few more questions left. This is very exciting. I've learned a lot. I actually really love your analogies and the way you explain. So thank you for that. You're making those experiences much more real for many folks, I'm sure. Let's talk about this sort of, you alluded a few times about collaborations between the companies and kind of those partnerships. I'm just curious, as a founder, obviously important, how important and how you conceptualize, how you thinking about these people in your ecosystem?
Do you mind clarifying your question?
Yeah, you mentioned sort of collaborations and of various partners who are joining. How do you think? Are they merely purchasing land? How are you thinking about them? Why those folks are important, and how are you involving them to be sort of part of that universe of experiences?
Sure. Okay. Now I understand your question. I think there's kind of like two elements here. One is that I truly believe that generally live stream shopping is a it's a macro trend. It's a whole new way that people want to engage with the person behind the brand and engage with their friends while they shop. And
I'm sorry, what is the term again? I've never heard. I don't think I've heard this. Live stream shopping, you said?
Oh, live stream shopping. This is actually one of the early parts of the hypothesis. Is that me and the co-founders, we were playing around with some of these live stream shopping applications. The best way to think about it is, let's say, I don't know, someone famous, David Beckham. He goes live on his Instagram. And everyone joins, and they can ask him questions. And at the same time, so there's an Asian version of that called Taobao. In the US, there's Network and Topshop. And all of these, basically, it's a place where like the influencer goes live. And at the same time, there are usually exclusive to this time period products for sale. And the more we thought about that, we realized, well, people definitely like shopping with their friends. People want to meet this influencer. And the way that you do it right now, it doesn't actually have that enhanced value proposition the way that we saw is a massive opportunity where, the creators are in power of the whole platform, first of all. Secondly, as a fan of said brand, creative designer, beauty designer, you in a 3D setting can actually meet and greet them, and you can have the two-way conversation. And for the ease of the creative director, for example, they can have the conversation with multiple people, like as if we were standing in a real store. And then on top of that, I really believe that these 3D environments will just enable like a whole new type of commerce conducting. Think about any sort of like shop tycoon experience that you're familiar with from the video game world. So, you enter the room and there's a notification that says like, oh, your other friends, Martin and Nick, are in this room as well. And then you walk around and it's like, oh, you've explored your first room, and you start getting kind of like shopping points. When you try and add to cart, you have this opportunity to virtually try on clothes in a virtual mirror. With certain makeup products, we're about to introduce this technology where you'll be able to try it on almost like a Snapchat filter. And then, of course, your friends are standing with you. So they can be like, oh, that looks really good on you. Or I don't think you should buy that. Or even more exciting is maybe you have a conversation about the brand. And now this is really interesting for the person who made the room, because they're like, oh, interesting. 10 people today have already told me that I should focus more on backpacks rather than wallets. And suddenly you have like an incredible feedback loop, a new sense of urgency for shopping. And I really believe it will also reduce purchasing decision time, because people will just know a lot more clearly if they want or don't want something.
That's really cool. And that's a really great explanation. And this live stream shopping experience, I see the value. I see you, Batis. That's helpful as a brand, as a consumer, as an influencer. Like everyone gets something. I see that experience. That's really cool. What is sort of, so I hear some technology around sort of trying to makeup on through kind of filters. Like what other core technology developments do we see to enable this really cool immersive experience with the brand, with the influencer, one-to-one consumer with the group with friends? I mean, it's like a lot of cool things together. Your friends, your brands, your influencer. This is like fun. Like it doesn't get much better than that. But, to make it more real, technology needs to step up its game, right? What is technology doing to make this fun add up to more than 3?
There is a lot of, I guess the quick answer for you will be, there's a lot of work gone into pushing the limits of JS for WebGL experiences, like, if you code in JS for web-based virtual worlds. Some of the graphics today are definitely not comparable to what you're seeing, on your downloaded game on Xbox or Nintendo or PlayStation. But anyone who's working on web-based virtual worlds has kind of like very difficult problems that are related to, cloud streaming, cloud CPU, cloud GPU, to provide you with that high-level aesthetic. Think about what's really happening. A game that you're downloading, if it's a good, well-built game from one of the big gaming companies, it's about 40 to 80 gigabytes. There's obviously smaller, but so now try and think about a website loading 80 gigabytes of data. Most people's most people's phone plans expire by the time that downloads, right? And so there's a kind of like a whole new way to think about data compression. Think about kind of like bringing into the cloud the CPU and the GPU that's needed to run certain things and fully optimizing. So sometimes you will see experiences that they're just not up to standard. They feel like it's an early 2000s PC game, but we're getting there. There's a lot of people working on this that I'm friends with right now in the industry who are trying to solve all the very difficult underlying problems, and there's many.
Yeah, no, I actually really love that example. It's like basic core technology problems actually need to be first before we even build various apps, right? It's actually like a really good explanation. And that's how you in early days, because the infrastructure, the plumbing doesn't support your imagination. Your imagination is bigger than what you can build today, given the infrastructure or lack of it that we have. And you articulated this with a very good example. that is we're coming to the end, sadly, but very quickly we're coming to the end. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, it was great to be here with you.
Awesome to have conversations with people who are building it firsthand every day when they get up in the morning. I love your energy. Before I tell you goodbye, I do want to ask you one question about sort of the obstacles in the metaverse, and we kind of started this conversation. What other obstacles do you see, and what work do you see happening? And then I guess on what timeline? As you can see, I'm pretty eager about the space. And I wanted to improve fast, and I wanted to improve in my lifetime. And while I intend to live forever and for a long time, I wanted to happen sooner. So, like, what are we talking about? What are the problems, and what are the timelines?
Yeah, sure. So, actually, there's an initiative that myself and Dirk from Upland started. The Open Metaverse Alliance.
Dirk was the guest here a few episodes ago, a couple of months ago.
Oh, cool. So maybe he spoke. So maybe he spoke about it as well. The Open Metaverse Alliance. It's something me and Dirk started, and our founding members include Alien Worlds, Sandbox, Decentraland, Crypto Voxels, Animoca Brands, Dapper Labs, and we're actually all working towards a very similar mission in different working groups. We really believe, true user ownership and the ability for you as a user to own your own data, own your own assets across many different experiences in the metaverse is crucial. And so we've been working together and creating these working groups where we also address the technology to get there. So, for example, we're working on asset transferability, we're working on privacy, we're working on land mapping and portaling. We have a couple more working groups that will be announced probably in the coming weeks. And then, of course, we have some great people in the industry like Akash Network and Filecoin and others who are working on the streaming side complexity. And there's people like Orbit who are working on metaverse browsers so that you don't use Google Chrome anymore. You use a metaverse specific browser that is more optimized to load 3D experiences, etc.
Oh, I just love it. Oh, so cool. And for people who want to be involved, is there a place to go in the Web 2 or Web 3 world where they want to be part of those working groups? Are those public or?
Oh, yeah, sure. So you would go on OMA3, OMA3.org.
Okay.
You can learn more about us there. You can sign up. You can join. You can apply. Where we have, I think, about 1,000 applicants now. It's really crazy.
It's competitive. Okay, it's competitive.
No, not competitive. It's not like it's not like an exclusive club at all. Actually, we want more and more people to apply. We're just a very small team, and so the onboarding is something we're trying to do more and more rapidly. So yeah.
I love it. And you were doing it with Dirk. He's like one of my favorite people in the industry. So cool. Now
yeah,
I actually
awesome.
experience FOMO. I almost never experience FOMO. You got it out of me. All right. Well, that is really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Learned a lot from you. I love your passion for it and your analogies and explanations. You're definitely making it real. I am really excited about everything you're building and really excited that you are long-term committed to this space and this industry. So thank you so much for being here. I want to give
Absolutely.
you a chance to, maybe if, folks have listened to many things you've discussed, if you want them to take, maybe one thing out of the conversation, maybe they have been in anything metaverse, or maybe they haven't.
Yeah, sure.
What is the one thing they should leave this conversation?
I think the one thing is that all of this is new, and there's no point in being scared and trying things out. I think at Space, what we're trying to do is reduce the friction in all sorts of ways. We're providing a web-based experience. We've made building a store incredibly easy. We didn't even talk about this. Building a store in Space takes 3 minutes versus 50, 60, 70 hours on any other platform. We've basically created like an incredibly easy setup wizard, beautiful templates. Our community is building the future of these templates. If you are a 3D builder, you can be part of our design hackathon and win money from committing templates to the platform. So yeah, come try it out, because someone listening here today will be, I really believe that, people who are the next person to do something new in the metaverse are the next SoundCloud DJ. They're the next artist. They're the next big influencer. They're the next big fashion brand, the next big beauty brand. And it's really that opportunity now to be the metaverse first brand in the world. And we're talking with a couple of those. So don't be shy. It's new, it's experimental, and people will really appreciate whatever you're learning in your journey.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us as well. I've learned a lot. I don't know if you missed the gems, but I want to make sure you get them. That theme park experience, that's a really good way of describing what's happening. If that doesn't make you curious, I'm not sure what will make you curious. I love thinking of land as a .com domain, and I think that really conveys what it's all about and the value. And that live stream shopping experience, I thought it was really interesting stuff. I would like to see technology to support that experience to the fullest. It will probably a few years away, but all of that is exciting. So I hope that piqued your interest to learn more, to maybe contribute, to be part of this. Absolutely not an investment advice and definitely not legal advice, but really a call to action to, join the builder community or somebody who supports builders, to be part of the conversation, to be part of that effort, because that effort is exciting. Thank you so much for joining. I will continue having conversations with builders and those who support them so we can learn firsthand. You can bring popcorn next time, and we will definitely have a good time. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.